gets in there, all of a sudden they put the Sex Pistols on. What's the harm? Except I might get some music I don't like. So help me understand how cybersecurity plays into this broad topic of software-defined automobiles.
Great question, right? Any disruption, is business for us, right? It really depends on the consumer. If in your exact scenario, if I'm a single, I might love it, right? If I'm a single parent, I'm pissed off because you're playing something obscene for my kids. So no matter what, it's business opportunity for companies like us, where we are trying to create dynamic sounds, virtual sounds. Our motto is to kind of give you the sort of the sound effect as if you are sitting inside the real concert hall.
Wow.
And that's the experience we want to bring into the automotive industry, right? So, virtual sound experiences, any disruption is a big issue for us, and we want to protect and make sure we're providing the right delivery to our consumers.
It makes sense, because that's part of the experience that I'm buying when I buy Harman. I want you to tell me you're not going to have Mozart taken off your radio station, Steve, with our implementation, right?
That's exactly right.
And that's a good thing, right?
True, totally.
So how does XDR, which is this idea of correlating across tools and responding across tools, how does that play into vehicle analytics? I mean, do you guys have a big data center where you're looking at all the fleet and bringing this data in? Or just give us a little bit of color on that so we can understand the big picture.
Today we have three types of vehicle architectures. Initially we started off building vehicles with hundreds of ECUs, and with the software-defined vehicles, we are building with domain controllers, zonal controllers. There are a lot of events and triggers that are coming in from the car, right? But imagine 100,000 employee auto OEM. When they get all these triggers, they don't know how to correlate and understand across varied set of suppliers. Harman builds displays. We have Bosch who builds controls. We have LGE Electronics, who builds the battery systems. You have varied set of component players, and they all have a proprietary format of loggings and events and triggers. XDR provides us the perfect opportunity to unify all of these triggers into a single format that allows us to correlate a lot of these events, and most hopefully, right, this is kind of the big thing, we can automate the responses. I think this is something that hasn't been done in the automotive industry. People have done all the, they're very big into incident events, but the best approach to the problem is to push a software update. But with this automated response, we can reduce the number of updates, because to us, every update is going to cost an OEM $3 million to push an update to all your cars, right? So if we can reduce the number of updates, use the XDR mechanism, correlate a lot of the events, reduce their expenses, they're going to love it.
I love that. So I think people like to know numbers sometimes. And in this case, how much data is coming off of a car that you have to look at, and what does that mean worldwide? I mean, we're probably dealing with terabytes, petabytes. Give me a sense of scale of this thing. It could be ginormous.
Sure. We have sort of two types of vehicles in the connected autonomous world, right? Connected world, there's a lot of telemetry data, and telemetry data is kind of where auto industry is looking to monetize. It ranges anywhere from 300 bytes every second to every minute to every 5 minutes. Really depends on how much money the OEM wants to spend collecting this data and monetizing it, right? The biggest place where they monetize is in the insurance industry.
Sure.
Vehicle-based, the mileage-based insurance is kind of a new way where this consumer don't have to pay a flat fee and only pays if he drives less and so on. Yeah. Now from that domain of connected vehicles, we are moving into autonomous vehicles, where we are expected to generate hundreds of gigabytes of data, right? Because these autonomous cars are something they're collecting information from various types of sensors. And we know many cases the sensors themselves are not sufficient to solve the problem.
Right.
And it's this kind of, we have this both low fidelity data and high fidelity data that we have to deal with. And we have to provide cybersecurity in both types of scenarios. So if you look into the future, we are more focused on high fidelity data and try to figure out how to create the threat analysis. And we're also looking at building these security solutions more closer to the edge. This is another mechanism where we can reduce the latency, and where, in the kind of the architecture that Stellar provides with the sensors, the aggregators, and the data processors, it's a perfect case in the automotive industry where we can deploy these aggregators on where it is really needed and bring in the events that's more relevant to the auto OEM's IT network.
That's the big picture for sure, Ravi. And
Yeah.
I actually want to take a nugget out of that. Just the idea of insurance companies. Now, on the enterprise side, we're seeing insurance companies shortlist technologies that they will now reduce your premium because you've reduced risk in their minds, and they're going to give you that cost savings. Do you see the same trending? Are you working with insurance companies now on the automobile side, or is it early days and they don't get that synergy yet?
You know, our motto is always about, focusing on the consumer, right? The sort of the vision that we have at Harman is that when we go to a consumer, they're already paying, cybersecurity license to to protect your laptops, phones, but nobody's paying for the automobiles. So
Yeah.
we are trying to come up with a mechanism where they pay one technology fee to protect all their devices, but that's kind of where the insurance also comes into play,
Yeah.
right? Auto industry is all about liability and risk management. We as a tier one supplier love to play a mechanism about how to define cybersecurity insurance for our customers. And essentially, if we can guarantee that ransomware is truly blocked, if you have an event, Harman as a tier one supplier would pay for it, right? So this is kind of where we see the industry is going to go. It's not there yet,
Okay.
but it's going to driven from the consumer's demand and the OEMs kind of understanding how to underwrite the risk.
Well, I'll tell you, in my family, we got 4 drivers and big insurance bills, Ravi. So you can tell me at some point, if you buy Harman technology, Steve, your rates are going to go down. You got a winning story in my house. I'll tell you that right now.
Absolutely.
So let me ask you about Open. We're at the Open XDR Summit. Here we are today. First day. You've been listening to some of the presentations. How does this term open work within your organization and as you work with your ecosystem partners? Do they understand what it means, or do you have to educate them to help them understand it is a community play, all parts coming together to be a better than the whole, or more than the whole?
Automotive industry is traditionally a walled garden, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's why I bring it up.
Right. It's
Yeah.
kind of very protective of their data, very protective of the mechanism. But they're kind of coming into the world where they have to start interacting with the infrastructure, where they have to kind of start talking to other cars. There's a lot of, when you are trying to dream about deploying billions of dollars of services to the consumers, you have to figure out how to create an open architecture, right? Because it's not just the OEM itself that's providing that experience. They are working with various suppliers and partners, both in their private network and in the public network, right? So today, many auto OEMs are using AWS. Many auto OEMs are using Google Cloud. So there's going to be a combination of public-private, clouds that are going to be intermingled. And Open XDR, to me, as an tier one supplier, is music to my ears, because it really brings in these varied types of diversified suppliers under one umbrella, and we can kind of trying to protect their privacy, but at the same time be able to correlate where the source of the threat is and which systems are affected.
Right, and hopefully share that across the network and report that.
That's
back
right,
as a
right,
value
right.
add,
Yeah, yeah.
No, but Harman has always been a component company in the standpoint, people knew that they could get the radio or the tape player they wanted. So I think it's an actual extension of your value prop that people know for decades, right? So I think it's natural for you, but like you said, the automobile industry, this is a little different. So are you optimistic about the next 3 years?
Oh, totally. And I think, the software-defined vehicles is a big revolution in the industry, right? The experience of truly providing, we have seen some of the transition, like today, if I walk into, we have seen Netflix being streamed into cars, with really good, experience in terms of controlling the latency. We have also seen companies like BMW where you can wear a VR headset, participate into the meta world. So that AR, VR experience is absolutely coming into the vehicle, right? Because it's an extension of what we do at home. It's an extension of what we do at your work, right? The funny part with all of us is that we spend more than $100,000 on a very valuable investment, and it's sitting idle in 90% of the time, right? But I think we're trying to get more value for consumers' investment.
Yeah.
And if they can actually be part of their home, be part of a virtual concert, be part of their work, inside this $100,000 investment that they're putting in, it's more value for the consumer, and they're going to enjoy it much better.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense to me, Ravi. I can't wait because I can see that home theater coming into the car and having that experience follow me because of your technology. Ravi, thanks so much for being here today. Is there a question that you think I should have asked that I didn't ask yet?
No, I think it's there's a lot of complexity in the automotive. Just to give you a perspective, each OEM has about 20,000 suppliers. And I think this, open XDR is really going to help the supplier, any vulnerabilities in the suppliers. My biggest issue is that which one of these suppliers is going to be attacked with ransomware, and how does it affect the consumer experience, right? So I know we've talked a lot about the technology, a lot of the framework, but it's kind of this indirect impact on the supply chain.
Right.
Is a big issue, and we really want to use the Open XDR as a forum to bring that out to the world and allow people to share information and create a community where a lot of this cyber threat intelligence is using a standard mechanism and something in an open manner where they can build their next generation technologies on top of it.
I love it, Ravi. Thanks again. You know I'm a believer, so thanks
Good,
again
me
for
too.
being here today. We really appreciate it.
My
Thanks,
pleasure.
everybody.